Voila, Chatroom's on.
Chatroom, what's it all about?
It's a thing.
A start.
Morality. Is there still any left?
Life is about choices.
Everyone has an opinion.
The debate is always good. Let's chat about it. A start.
Siyanibingelela nonke emakhaya and welcome to the chat room. We loosely throw around the term depressed or stressed. Now, when we're under pressure or battling to cope with the challenge, but what does it really mean when one is said to be actually suffering from depression? Most people usually experience mood swings or the simple ups and downs of life, feel sad or feel under the weather from time to time. Now, when feelings of gloom have taken hold of your life and won't go away, it could be that you are suffering from depression. According to SABC, depression is a medical illness that causes a constant feeling of sadness and lack of interest. It affects how a person feels, behaves, and thinks. It can also lead to emotional and physical problems. Depression can also be long-lasting and also recurrent. It hinders a person's ability to function at work or even at school. In its mild state, it can be treated without medication, but when it's moderate or severe, they may need medicine in conjunction with counseling. At its most severe, depression can lead to suicide. It is said that there are an estimate of 121 million people in the world living with some type of depression, and there is an alarming 80% of people who are not being treated for it. So namhlanje on the chat room, we are exploring depression and thus asking, how can one help a loved one to recover from depression? We meet up with a young man called Sandile who experienced a loss that triggered his depression. Let's take a look at his story.
Chatroom's on.
Let's chat about it. A start.
My name is Sandile. My journey started in 2007. My father was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And that incident was very tough for us as a family because we were a close-knitted family of 4. And hearing that he's now dealing and having to face cancer was very tough for us. Soon after that, he passed on, and his death actually impacted us as a family so much that I isolated myself from a lot of people. In fact, after his death, after his funeral, I immediately went back to school. No one even knew about what was happening during that time because I just didn't want to explain myself to so many people. I didn't think that people would understand what I'm going through. And we managed to get through that, and it was tough though. In 2010, then my brother was on his way back from school and he had a mysterious car accident. He was the only one involved in that car accident and unfortunately also passed on. That moment was very tough. It was different for us. It was unexpected. It came at a time where we needed each other. It came at a time that we didn't expect something like this would happen. And it impacted my mother and I so badly that I actually had to seek counseling. And that's when I started my counseling journey. My brother's death especially impacted on us because it showed that I'm not that strong, you know, as much as I thought I was. It showed that you can never be prepared of anything. It just showed that life is like a flash. It can easily be taken away from you, and you should just be thankful for each and every moment you have. Death is like, it's something that is like a sore in your mind, and it will always be there. You just need to learn how to live with it. The minute I heard that and the minute I understood that, that's when I think my healing journey began, you know. And my TCF days were always something that I looked forward to. I sat there for many hours talking about the grief from my dad and from my brother's point of view, because I believe they were very different and they impacted me differently. Depression is, it's an individual, it affects us differently. Let me just put it that way. It affects us differently. And I think the moment you understand that it affects us differently and we'll all react differently to it, that's when you will look at other people and not judge yourself according to how they've went through or what they've done. Unfortunately, depression is a one person's journey. Yes, people might help you, people might talk to you, but it's up to you, you know. At the end of the day, it's how you're gonna take yourself out of there through what you've learned, you know. Because this is a spiritual and emotional battle. It's not a physical battle as such, you know. So once you've dealt with it from within, it then becomes easier with you going through your physical duties, your physical world, your physical things that are happening around the world. It is when I took control of my own thoughts. It is when I started saying, I need to live on. The world is moving on, and I need to, if I need to live, I need to be part of it, and I need to dust myself up and move on and accept and deal with it. I started to meditate. I found a very good woman by the name of Vali. She's my meditation and yoga instructor. I started meditation and I found it so divine for me, because that made me in touch with my emotions, it made me in touch with my feelings, it made me in touch with who I am, you know. And meditation became a safe house for me also. Meditation also played a huge role in my healing process.
A truly emotional story. Join us after the break when we continue to engage Sandile on this. We'll be right back.
Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. Start. Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. Start.
Welcome back. Namhlanje on the chat room, we're unpacking depression. How can one recover from this debilitating condition? Earlier, we saw a moving story of a young man battling with depression. He joins us now in studio. Sandile, welcome. Also joining me right here on the couch is Thabiso Mokhethi. Thank you and welcome to the chat room. And of course, as always on the chat room, our panel of guests, we've got from SADC, Fatima Sidat, as well as Jackie Hill, who is a depression recoverer, and Islam leader Abdul Rahman Laily. Sandile, what were some of the things that alarmed you, that you may not just be grieving, this may be more than just the grieving, you're showing signs and symptoms of depression?
Okay, with my father's incident, I can say I was grieving because I isolated myself. I wasn't interacting. I didn't want to talk about it. I was with my mates, but most of them didn't know what was happening at that time. So I think that was a coping mechanism for me, not speaking about it, not having to share about what was happening, because at that time a lot of people didn't know what was cancer. And but with my brother, I found it very different. There I broke, there I needed help. It came at an unexpected time, and it just made a lot of things so real. Like, I just knew that death is like a second away, you know, and it can happen anytime. So that's when I fell into depression. And the reason I'm saying I fell into depression, because I went for a support group, and that's where my counselor diagnosed that I fell into depression. Yeah.
Thabiso, you can identify with loss. Someone very close to your heart recently passed on as well.
My pops passed away in '99, and then a couple of months ago, my mom and my young brother passed away in a car accident.
In a car accident.
Yeah.
Surely grieving is part of the process, and but you say that you didn't get into a depression. How do you know? Well,
look, there's loss. The first thing is to acknowledge that these two people, I love them, and now they're gone. If I pretended it didn't happen, that would be denial. if I acted in a manner that says, look, now that they're gone, my life has to end, there's a problem. So for me, I first acknowledged with Bashwanile, and I didn't go through the why me phase. Through that, if you take your pain and then you make it the core and center of your life, then everywhere you look, you're going to start identifying pain. Then suddenly your view of life is dimmed by what you are going through. So I needed to take responsibility of the pain I was feeling. I didn't allow, however, local color doesn't stop me from recognizing a joke.
You know what I want to find out is that both of you have suffered loss, very close people, but then you then went into a depression, you didn't. I want to find out, Fatima, if you can help me, what's the difference between somebody who suffers loss and then falls into a depression and somebody who suffers loss, like Thabiso, and then doesn't fall into a depression?
Yeah, you know what it is? I think you can draw the line where you say depression comes in where you've been going through the same sadness and you know the symptoms of depression for a prolonged period over 3 weeks. Then you say, okay, I've got depression, or I think I'm having depression. You know, it will affect your daily life, as in you struggle to go to work, or you struggle to go to school every day. You struggle to do things that you usually do every single, like enjoy especially. You lose interest in almost everything that you've been doing previously. Your behaviors, your patterns start changing. And that is when you know, maybe I have depression, I need to contact someone. Whereas when you're going through a grief or loss, you're going through like different phases. Initially you did, like, you know, Thabiso said, you go through denial, some people go through an anger phase where they're just angry with everything. Eventually they come to this point where they actually accept the loss and they can now deal with it and go through daily activities again.
And just, I want to find out, Abdul, spirituality in our lives. How important is that in one's life, especially for someone who's dealing with depression or thinks that they might be diagnosed with depression?
The first thing would be to look at the concept of ownership in terms of the loss of a loved one. Generally, those who suffer from depression feel that sense of loss and go into depression because they feel they were entitled to that person. And from all religious teachings, we have that we belong to the Almighty, whatever faith you subscribe to. So when you do that, and if you look at all the prophetic examples, whether it was Jonah, whether it was Joseph, whether it was Solomon, whether it was David, whenever they found themselves in a trying circumstance, they submitted the matter to the Almighty. You know, the whole wusa kind of thing. And that's what we take from the prophetic examples in terms of not falling into depression, because some things are just beyond your particular control.
Jackie, you've recovered from depression, but I'm hearing Thabiso say, if I had allowed myself, when you were going through depression, did you feel you had allowed yourself to go through a depression?
I'm still struggling with depression, but I was amazed by what you said, because I lost my biological father, and you said, don't let it rob you from succeeding in your life, and I have. I went into such a deep depression. I tried to kill myself a few times. I turned to drugs. I was in hospitals and institutions. Only now, for about 15 years, I've been struggling. Only now am I finding inner peace within inside of myself. Only now am I able to look for happiness within inside of myself and not out there. And what you just said, I swear, this is just meant to be together.
You had a light bulb moment.
A light bulb moment, because when my biological father passed away, also of cancer, I was there when he died. I stopped living. I lost my friends. I destroyed my family. I became this horrible, depressed, miserable, there's no sunshine kind of person.
Sandile, is that some of the things that Jackie's talking about? Did you experience that?
No. Loss of a loved one is different. This is how I take depression. We all get depressed in different levels. It doesn't matter whether you've lost one person or two people. I could have lost my whole family and I could be more depressed than you, or the person who's lost one person could be more depressed than me. So with me, it was different. It was never that extreme like she was. Mine were just basic of isolation, not talking about it, but post that, it became a matter of insecurity. I couldn't interact well. I feared. With my brother's incident, I couldn't even drive for some time because I was always in the mode of something can happen, you know. So those were my traumas, I would say.
What we always recommend is once you see a psychologist and a psychiatrist for at least 3 to 4 treatments, join a support group, because this will help you. As you know, it's a place where you feel a sense of belonging, where you find people that are going through very similar things as you, and you share ideas and you speak about things, and it's a nice support system to be part of. And a support group is usually used as a place where it will help you maintain your well-being, and that would obviously eliminate the fact of relapsing into another depression episode again.
Jackie, Fatima is talking about the support system, which is something I think you can identify to or with. What would you say have been the benefits of having such a support system? Other people around you that you can share with, psychologists and psychiatrists, etc.
Well, my psychiatrist put me on the right medication, which helps tremendously. You go from wanting to die to starting to want to live slowly, a little bit more every day. And for me, my support system is my family. They've been amazing. My father, my sisters, my mom, all of them, they've been absolutely amazing. And also, like I said, I'm at Talisman Foundation, and being around people with the same problem as me, and the same, like, they'll come into my room and sit down and they'll cry and I'll cry, and then all of a sudden we'll be laughing. I mean, that's an amazing support system.
Do you believe that you can truly recover from depression?
At this point in my life, I don't know. I'm just starting to see the little flicker of light. I've been depressed for so many years.
So it's a day at a time?
I'm living a moment at a time for now, yeah. I'm trying to put the positive in and the negative out. You know, I'm trying to let go of my father passing away, my biological father. I'm trying to let go of the fact that I was raped. I'm trying to move on from all of these things that I've been carrying around with me for the last 15 years. And it's not going to take 2 or 3 months.
Sure.
It's going to take a long time.
Let's go for a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. Ascard. Debate is always good. Let's chat about it. Ascard.
Nyanbingelela futhi, we're talking depression on the chat room today. Before the break, besikhuluma ngama signs that one can see ukuthi whether or not umuntu depressed. We also shared stories of people who are recovering from depression and people who have recovered from a depression. So we continue with this discussion. Fatima, very briefly, please can you highlight the different levels of depression? Because I think a lot of us don't know that it differs.
Like I said earlier, the first thing you get in is genetics plays a role in getting depression. So in that way, it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. And because of that, you now need to get medication, because that will bring your chemical imbalance become balanced again. And then obviously it's events like all your guests here today, they've all been through something that's triggered the depression. That's totally different. So yes, you can overcome depression with counseling in that case.
We speak of depression, which at times leads to suicide in extreme cases. And I think what we're doing here, we're ignoring one thing. We're looking at after the problem, after the tragedy. Before, For example, me now, like I said, I'm a Christian, right? And even then, I went through many trials before that. But it's only when I started recognizing that, you know what, maybe I'm not in control of this life. Maybe I need help. I think the sense of us feeling so powerful and wanting to control things is what tends to lead most human beings into a depression state, because suddenly they are going through something that money cannot help them with, that every form of intelligence or fun of the world cannot help with. Now, when you don't have an anchor, you know, I can only speak from a Christian perspective because that's where my help comes. Mahomet is a Muslim. He'll agree as well that having a spiritual background, having something that's greater than who you are, is what helps you in times where you are facing problems that are greater than your resources.
Mr. Abdul, your closing comments with regards to recovering from depression.
Two things. Firstly, remember that no human being is an island, and the Lord created us dependent on each other. While we have institutionalized psychology, psychiatry, support groups, etc., remember that the human touch is what allows us to see ourselves through those circumstances, number one. Number two, great people were always the ones who were subjected to great trials. So if you are experiencing any trial or any tribulation, know it's the Almighty's way of growing you for bigger, better things in the future.
Fatima, your closing comments with regards to this matter?
You know, SADC's there to help everyone. Due to stigma, people are very, they're not willing to go get the help because they'll be seen differently. SADC's there and it's totally anonymous. We are there to help you at any given time. Please call us. Our numbers will be on the show soon.
Okay. Sandile, thank you for sharing your story with us, Lana, on the chat room. The other young people who are going through and maybe will go through and have gone through what you've gone through, what would your advice be to them?
I liked what Thabiso said. This is a spiritual battle. I think that's when you realize, when you've lost a loved one, that this is not physical as such. It's a emotional pain. So yes, for me, being in touch with my creator, being in touch with TCF, that's what has helped me. And for other people going through the same thing out there, I would really advise them to do that, you know. Find that thing that makes you come back to your emotions, because I practice yoga and meditation even now. And those are the things that make me be in touch with the Lord and find myself and be in touch with my emotions and be in control of them. Before we close on the chat room, Jackie has found healing in poetry. We're going to let her close off the show for us. This discussion continues on our social network platforms. And remember, Uguti, if you are noticing signs and symptoms of depression in anyone or someone that you love that is dear to your heart, the numbers are on the screen right now. Please do call them and help someone. We're closing off now with Jackie with her poetry. Today
I laughed and gave a smile. It was from my heart and as big as the Nile. This place is helping me see that I don't want to cut and bleed. Today I felt the sun on my face, laughing in this crazy place. I know there is hope for me. For the first time I can see. I can see life around me. I can live, I am free. Every day is getting better. My eyes don't cry and get wetter. I'm not going to ask how or why. I'm so grateful I want to live and not die. I will take each day as it comes and try to find love and fun. I can hear the music again. I'm not playing the death game. I want to live my life. I want to be your wife. I think I found a way from depression to stay away.